Dear child. The wedding was only minutes away when someone suddenly whispered your name. The music stopped, the smiles disappeared, and every face turned toward one person. Your soulmate looked as though a secret buried for years had just returned to life. And what happened next was not part of the ceremony anyone had prepared for. Listen carefully. Everything had been arranged perfectly that day. The flowers had been placed carefully along the aisle, the guests had taken their seats, and the families were moving around with nervous excitement, checking every final detail. From the outside, it looked like a beautiful beginning. People were laughing, taking pictures, and speaking about the future as though nothing could possibly go wrong. But beneath that celebration, there was an uncomfortable silence living inside your person. They had been smiling whenever someone looked at them, yet the moment they were alone, that smile vanished. Their hands were cold. Their breathing felt heavy. And every few minutes, their eyes moved toward the entrance as though they were expecting someone who had never been invited. No one understood why your person had been distant throughout the morning. Their family believed it was normal wedding day anxiety. Some thought they were simply overwhelmed by the responsibility of marriage. But the truth was far more emotional. Your soulmate had carried your memory into that place. They had tried to silence it, tried to convince themselves that the past could remain buried, and tried to believe that standing beside someone else would finally erase everything they still felt for you. Yet with every step closer to the ceremony, your name became louder inside their mind. They remembered the conversations you once shared when no one else was listening. They remembered the promises that were never completed. They remembered the final moment between you, when both of you wanted to say more but allowed fear, family pressure, and misunderstanding to end the conversation. Your soulmate had spent a long time pretending that losing you was something they had accepted. They told everyone they had moved on. They even told themselves that the chapter was closed. But deep inside, they knew they had never truly stopped wondering what would have happened if they had chosen courage instead of silence. A few minutes before the ceremony, your person was standing in a private room while relatives adjusted their clothes and spoke excitedly about the life ahead. Someone placed a hand on their shoulder and said, "This is the happiest day of your life." Your soulmate forced another smile, but those words struck them painfully. They looked into the mirror and saw a person preparing to make a lifelong promise while hiding the biggest truth in their heart. They knew that happiness should not feel like pressure. Love should not feel like surrender. And yet they were moments away from walking into a marriage while part of their soul was still standing beside you. Don't skip. Because the person who whispered your name was not a stranger, and they did not speak accidentally. Among the guests was someone who knew the history between you and your soulmate. This person had watched everything unfold from the beginning. They had seen how deeply your person cared for you, how family opinions slowly created distance, and how one false story changed the direction of your connection. For years, they had remained silent because they believed it was not their place to interfere. But that day, while watching your soulmate prepare to marry someone else, they realized that silence had already caused enough damage. This person had recently discovered something that changed everything they believed about your separation. They learned that a message you sent long ago had never reached your soulmate. Someone close to the family had intercepted it because they were afraid your person would return to you. That message contained the truth about why you stepped away. You had not abandoned your soulmate. You had not chosen someone else. You had been trying to protect them from a situation you believed would destroy their relationship with their family. But the message was hidden, and in its place, a completely different story was created. Your soulmate had been told that you left because your feelings were not real. They were told that you had moved on easily and that you never intended to return. At first, your person refused to believe it. They waited for you. They checked their phone at night. They searched for signs that the story was false. But as weeks became months, they slowly accepted the version they had been given. That lie became the foundation of every decision that followed. The person who knew the truth arrived at the wedding carrying proof. Inside their bag was an old envelope, worn at the edges but still sealed. Your name was written on it. The handwriting was unmistakable. The date showed that it had been written shortly before your soulmate believed you disappeared. That envelope had been found only days earlier inside a locked drawer belonging to the person who worked hardest to keep both of you apart. The witness had struggled with what to do. Revealing the truth could humiliate the family and destroy the wedding. Remaining silent could trap your person inside a marriage built on a lie. They walked through the venue several times, searching for a private moment to speak with your soulmate. But relatives surrounded them constantly. Photographers were taking pictures. The music grew louder. And the ceremony time came closer. Then the doors opened. Your soulmate stepped toward the aisle, surrounded by people who believed they were witnessing a joyful beginning. The guests stood. Phones were raised. The partner waiting at the front smiled with confidence. But your soulmate's face carried an emotion only a few people noticed. They were not looking toward the altar. Their eyes moved across the crowd, almost desperately, as though some invisible force was telling them that something was wrong. The witness stood near the front row, holding the envelope beneath their coat. Their heart pounded. They knew they had only seconds left. Once the vows began, stopping everything would become even more painful. They looked toward the family member who had hidden the message. That person noticed the envelope and immediately understood what had been discovered. Their expression changed. They moved quickly toward the witness and whispered, "Do not ruin this day." But the witness had already made a decision. As your soulmate reached the center of the aisle, the witness leaned toward the person beside them and whispered your name. It was not loud, but the room had become so quiet that several people heard it. One guest repeated it in confusion. Another turned toward your soulmate. Within seconds, your name moved through the crowd like a secret no one could control. Your person stopped walking. The music continued for a few moments before the musicians realized something had happened. Your soulmate slowly turned toward the guests. Their eyes searched the room. The happiness on their face disappeared completely. They asked, "Who said that name?" No one answered at first. The family member responsible for hiding your message rushed forward and said, "It was nothing. Please continue." But your person did not move. Their voice became stronger as they asked again, "Why was that name mentioned here?" The witness stepped into the aisle. Every guest watched as they approached your soulmate carrying the old envelope. The person who had hidden it tried to block their path, but the witness raised the envelope where everyone could see it. Your name was clearly written across the front. Your soulmate's face turned pale. They recognized your handwriting instantly. For a moment, they could not speak. Their hands began trembling as they took the envelope. The entire room remained silent. Even the person waiting at the altar looked confused and frightened. No one understood why an old letter had the power to stop the ceremony, but your soulmate understood immediately that this was connected to the unanswered questions they had carried for years. They looked at the date. Then they looked toward the family member who had always insisted that you never tried to reach them. "Where did this come from?" your soulmate asked. The witness answered honestly. "It was hidden. You were never supposed to see it." A wave of shock moved through the room. Your person turned toward their family, searching every face for an explanation. One relative looked down. Another stepped away. And the person who had controlled the life finally realized there was no way to escape. Don't skip. Because your soulmate had not even opened the letter yet, and the most painful confession was still coming. The partner waiting at the altar walked forward and asked what was happening. Your soulmate did not answer. Their attention remained fixed on the envelope. The ceremony, the guests, the music, and the future they had been preparing to accept suddenly felt distant. In their hands was a message from the one person they had tried hardest to forget. Your person slowly broke the seal. The paper inside had aged, but the words were still clear. The first line alone caused their eyes to fill with tears. It said that you never wanted to leave. It said that you had been waiting for one sign from them before making the most difficult decision of your life. It said that someone from their family had warned you to disappear, claiming your presence would destroy their future. And it said that despite everything, you would return if your soulmate ever learned the truth and called your name. Your person could no longer stand still. They stepped away from everyone, reading faster as the emotion they had buried for years rose to the surface. Every sentence destroyed another piece of the story they had believed. You had not betrayed them. You had not forgotten them. You had been separated by someone who believed they had the right to choose your soulmate's future. The family member responsible finally spoke. They said they had done it to protect your person. They claimed you were not the right choice. They insisted the marriage taking place now was better for the family. But your soulmate looked at them with a pain no apology could erase. "You let me hate someone who never left me," your person said. The room froze. The partner at the altar demanded to know whether your soulmate still loved you. It was the question everyone had been afraid to ask. Your person looked toward the vows waiting to be spoken, then back at the letter in their hands. Their silence became the answer before they said a single word. But then the witness revealed one more detail. The letter was not the only thing found inside that locked drawer. There was also a recent photograph of you, a printed copy of your current address, and a note written only 3 days before the wedding. The note contained a plan to make sure your soulmate would never discover where you were. Your person stared at the witness in disbelief. Then they asked the question that changed the entire atmosphere inside the room. Does this mean they know where you are right now? The witness nodded slowly. But before they could reveal the location, the person who had hidden everything suddenly reached for the note, and what they shouted next made your soulmate drop the wedding ring onto the floor. The wedding ring struck the floor with a sharp metallic sound, echoing through the silent hall. No one bent down to pick it up. Every guest remained frozen, staring at the family member whose desperate shout had shattered the last illusion still holding the ceremony together. "Don't tell them where they are," the voice cried. "If they find each other now, everything we've done will be exposed." A silence heavier than anything before settled across the room. Your soulmate slowly turned toward the person who had spoken. Their eyes no longer carried confusion. They carried heartbreak. And something even more dangerous, the determination to uncover every hidden truth. "Everything we've done," your soulmate repeated quietly. "What exactly have you done?" No answer came. The relatives who had spent years protecting the secret suddenly avoided eye contact. Some looked at the floor. Others stepped backward as if distance could protect them from the truth. Even the wedding guests who knew nothing about your story could feel that this was no ordinary family disagreement. Something far deeper had been hidden for years. Don't skip. Because the next few minutes would expose a chain of lies that no one imagined existed. The witness carefully unfolded another piece of paper taken from the same locked drawer. Unlike your letter, this document contained handwritten notes made over several years. Every page listed dates, places, phone numbers, and failed attempts made by your soulmate to find you. Your soulmate stared at the pages in disbelief. "I remember making these calls," they whispered. "You did," the witness replied. "But every time you searched, someone was already one step ahead of you." The room fell completely silent again. The witness explained that every message you had tried to send had been intercepted. Letters disappeared before reaching their destination. Phone numbers were quietly changed. Mutual friends were told never to reveal your location. Whenever your soulmate came close to discovering the truth, another lie was carefully placed in front of them. Your soulmate's hands began trembling. "For all these years," they whispered, "they wanted us to believe we abandoned each other." No one answered. Because no one could deny it anymore. The person waiting at the altar slowly removed the engagement ring from their finger. Tears filled their eyes, but instead of anger, there was sadness. I need to know something, they said softly. Your soulmate looked at them. If none of these lies had happened, would you still be standing here today? The question cut through the room like a blade. Your soulmate closed their eyes. Memories flooded back all at once. The first promise you made. The final goodbye that never made sense. The sleepless nights wondering why your messages stopped. The birthdays spent secretly hoping your name would appear on the phone. The countless moments they convinced themselves to let go, while never truly letting go at all. After a long silence, they finally answered. No. The single word changed everything. Some guests quietly began leaving their seats. Others started whispering among themselves. The musicians packed away their instruments without being asked. The celebration that had been planned for months was disappearing before everyone's eyes. Then the witness handed your soulmate a small sealed envelope. Then the witness handed your soulmate a small sealed envelope. This was found with the letter, they said. Why didn't you show me before? Because I wasn't sure you deserved to know the truth until you chose honesty over convenience. Your soulmate slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a recent photograph. It showed you standing beside a quiet lakeside, smiling gently toward the camera. The photograph had been taken only 3 weeks earlier. On the back, someone had written just 7 words. They never stopped waiting for your return. Your soulmate could barely breathe. For years they believed your story had ended. Yet here was undeniable proof that your chapter had never truly closed. The family member responsible for hiding everything suddenly stepped forward again. That photograph doesn't prove anything, they argued. They're living a different life now. You're about to destroy 2 families over old memories. Your soulmate looked directly into their eyes. Then why were you still hiding their address? The room became silent once more. There was no answer. Because there was no excuse. At that moment, the witness reached into the folder one final time. There is one last thing, they said. What is it? Your soulmate asked. The witness held up a folded hospital document dated only 4 days earlier. It explains why someone has been desperately trying to stop this wedding. Your soulmate reached for the document with shaking hands. But before they could unfold the first page, the lights inside the wedding hall suddenly went out. A phone began ringing somewhere in the darkness. And when your soulmate answered it, the familiar voice on the other end whispered just 3 words. I remember everything. Darkness filled the wedding hall. For several long seconds, no one moved. The only sound anyone could hear was the phone pressed against your soulmate's ear and the faint breathing coming from the other side of the call. I remember everything. The voice was quiet, fragile, yet unmistakably familiar. Your soulmate's entire body froze. Every memory they had tried to bury suddenly rushed back with overwhelming force. Their heart pounded so loudly that it drowned out every other sound around them. They wanted to speak, but emotion stole every word before it could leave their lips. "Is it really you?" they finally whispered. There was a pause. Then the voice answered softly. "I never forgot you. Not for a single day." The lights flickered back on. Everyone in the hall stared at your soulmate, watching tears slowly roll down their face. No one understood what had been said during those few seconds, but everyone could see that whatever they had just heard had completely changed them. Don't skip. Because the next truth was even more shocking than the hidden letter. Your soulmate slowly lowered the phone. The call had already ended. There was no number displayed on the screen. Only the words. Private caller. Before anyone could ask another question, the witness unfolded the hospital document that had almost been opened before the lights went out. "This wasn't an accident," the witness said quietly. "Someone has been trying to hide this too." Your soulmate carefully took the document. The first page revealed that someone had recently visited a hospital several times, asking the same question over and over again. Not about themselves. Not about their future. But about your soulmate. The visitor wanted to know whether your soulmate had already been married. Whether the wedding had already happened. Whether there was still time. Your soulmate stared at the report. Who made these visits? The witness pointed toward the final page. A visitor's signature appeared near the bottom. It was your name. The room became completely silent again. Several guests covered their mouths in disbelief. Even the relatives who had spent years denying your existence looked genuinely shaken. Your soulmate could barely breathe. "You came looking for me." The witness nodded. Again and again. They were always just a little too late. Every visit happened only days after another lie had been told to keep both of you apart. When you arrived at one place, your soulmate had already been sent somewhere else. When your soulmate searched for you, you had been told they no longer wished to see you. Someone had carefully controlled every meeting that almost happened. Years of separation had not been created by fate. They had been created by manipulation. Your soulmate slowly turned toward the family member responsible. How many times? No answer. How many times did we almost find each other? Still silence. The witness finally answered. 7. 7 different chances. 7 different opportunities. 7 different lies. Every single reunion had been stopped before it could happen. Your soulmate closed their eyes. They realized that every strange feeling they had experienced over the years. Every moment they suddenly thought about you. Every unexplained urge to travel somewhere. Every dream that refused to disappear. Had happened almost at the exact same time you were searching for them. Neither of you had truly let go. You had simply been kept apart. The partner who had been standing at the altar finally stepped forward once more. Their voice was calm. I don't want a marriage built on someone else's unfinished story. They gently removed the engagement ring and placed it into your soulmate's hand. You deserve the truth before you promise your life to anyone. The entire wedding hall remained silent. Some relatives began crying.